Okay, so I have two confessions to make. The first confession is when I was my leanest, I think I was about 11 to 12% body fat, was when my hormones looked the worst. The second confession, after going through an extreme season of hormone imbalance, is when our passion kind of grew to help women in that area as well. Because before that, hormones were kind of like not a taboo topic, but just something that wasn't often talked about in the space. So I was like, man, more women need to know the impact of hormones, especially because I saw how much it impacted me in literally, every way in life. And then when we started to do that, there was so much interest because, mind you, this was back in 2022. There wasn't the talk like there is today about cortisol belly and cortisol face and cortisol everything. And so when we started talking about it and I was sharing my journey publicly on social media, there was a lot of interest spiking and, then got certified and went through all these courses to educate ourselves on it. And when we were working with clients whose main concerns were hormones and they wanted to look better, they wanted to lean out, what we realized was that these women were looking for the silver bullet. They were looking for this one thing. If you just do this one thing, your hormones are going to be balanced and you're going to lose all this weight so effortlessly.
Yep. And it led into just this craze of exposure to it, right? And it was like, these things have always been there. It's not like the hormones started getting a lot like, oh my gosh, like my body has progesterone, estrogen, testosterone. Like we knew these things, but it's like, yeah, so many people were then going to functional doctors, naturopaths, like running that route and like, oh, that's gotta be it. Like, oh my gosh, if I just figured out that like, if I ran my blood test or did some sort of testing and I find out that my hormones are lower, oh, okay, God, that's the thing.
Yeah, right.
Like
it
finally,
solves
I
everything.
figured it out, right?
Yeah.
My estrogen is lower.
Yeah.
That's why I gained 20 pounds.
I just need to take this supplement
Right?
to increase my estrogen and I'm going to lose all this weight and I'm going to feel fantastic. And we're all, I think, searching for, it's easy to just think that there's one thing that's missing. I mean, we do this within our business, within our health sometimes, but the truth is it's rarely one thing. And especially when we talk about your body functions as a system, right? So hormones are a part of that system. It's a part of the equation, but it certainly is not the main part of the equation when we talk about strictly body composition related progress. So then we kind of pivoted and I was like, I think I'm going to stop talking about hormones as much publicly, even though we still help our clients with improving their hormone markers. I just found that a lot of times women, because they were searching for that one thing, when we would ask them to still do the basics and we would hold them accountable to things like, hey, let's still track our food to make sure we're eating enough and we're eating enough protein and you still have to lift weights. You still have to do the work, the foundational work. It's like there was more resistance to that.
Right.
Because I think that there was this idea in their head or this expectation that it was going to be easier. Now that I did the lab test, I'm good, right?
Right.
But the lab test really just uncovers what's going on underneath the surface. It doesn't fix the problem.
Right.
It just tells us what the problem is and what steps we need to take after.
Yeah. And that was the biggest thing too. It was like, oh, okay, run the labs and then like there was going to be some crazy prescription that came off the back end of that due to certain markers being off, like, going to start like really adjusting the way that I eat certain types of food and
like
different
a hormone
types
balanced
of things.
diet.
Yeah. And I need to like, shift it to like this, and Mediterranean started coming around and like all this stuff, like great things and great ways to be eating. Right. But yeah. And then when people hear, okay, well, hey, look, we still have to do the fundamentals. We still have to make sure you're eating the right amount of food, that you are moving your body properly, that you're sleeping enough. And then everyone's like, oh, done that already.
Right.
And then that's the type of person you're talking to. Because then it was like, they, not that that's a bad thing, right? Or bad to think that way, but it's like people, some of the people that we were talking to or people coming from that lens thought that, if my hormones were off and then I'm going back to doing the same old thing wasn't working. So there has to be something different. Something new to actually push me forward.
Yeah. So when my hormones looked the absolute worst was when I was the leanest. And it's because the things that I was doing was the fundamentals, which was I was tracking my food, I was training consistently, moving my body a lot, but I was doing that. I was doing those things to an extreme because I was competing, right? So we want to just talk about, not in like a super scientific way. We want to keep it simple so that it's really easy to digest and understand. But where do hormones play a role, and where is the I don't want to say lies, but there's a lot of misconceptions around how hormones play a role in your body composition. So we're wanting to uncover that today so that you can walk away feeling informed about how hormones can be impacting you, because there is a very strong impact, and that's why we are still helping clients with it. But also not to leave this conversation feeling like, well, if my hormones are off, then my body is broken and fat loss isn't possible for me, or muscle building isn't possible for me, because that is absolutely not the case.
Yeah.
What I will say, when I felt my best, when I woke up with energy, don't need a cup of coffee, I feel like if I did go into a calorie deficit, my body was responding as it should. And, training felt good again. My strength was increasing. I was getting my period on time, minimal PMS, high libido. Like, when I feel fantastic, my hormones do look pretty good. And that was proven more recently. I would say in the last 6 months is when I did a blood test. And for the first time in my life, my health practitioner, who is the kind of head honcho at the company that we're partnered with, she was like, Audrey, whatever you're doing, keep doing. Your labs look great. And I was like, I feel great. And it's so nice to finally see that. So there's a difference, right? It's like you can lose fat, build muscle. You can look really great on the outside, but feel like shit.
Yeah.
And your labs can look really bad and still look that way. But you can also feel really good. You still obviously can get lean and build muscle, and your hormones look good. And obviously the thing that you should be chasing is feeling really good, because it makes everything else that much easier. So let's dive into kind of what some of the myths are around balancing hormones. And we're going to say the term balancing loosely, right? Because your hormones are constantly fluctuating. There isn't really like a perfect balance. That's another big misconception. We use that term kind of vaguely because, you could use all these other technical terms, but especially for women, like your hormones fluctuate in a cycle. So more so what we're talking about is kind of more within the optimal ranges for each hormone, not necessarily that they're all perfectly balanced all the time, because that's just a myth.
100%. So let's get into the propaganda. Let's talk about it. Let's level with it. And we just want to do this to give you guys some more insight into, okay, what is actually true, what actually moves the needle, and what can you start to kind of detach from, and thinking that like that's the thing that's stopping me here.
Before we dive in, I get this a lot actually. You're not a doctor, you shouldn't be talking about this stuff. So let's address that real quickly. So I got my master's in exercise science, and this was back in 2020, and I decided to do my thesis on hormones. So that was the first introduction to it. And then beyond that point, I've done probably 3 or 4 different certifications. I've done, different mentorships and stuff. Probably 2 or 3 different very large mentorships that other naturopaths were also going through at the same time. So we've gone deep in this stuff. I also was like reading books all the time, and then we were helping clients with it. So I'm not a doctor, no, but I have a lot of experience. Our coaches have a lot of experience in this stuff. And I think experience is really where you learn so much of this stuff. But let's just get that out there, that we're not speaking from a clinical background. We're speaking from experience, my own experience, and all of the, I guess you could say, informal education that we have done. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. Real quick, if you've been on the fence about getting a coach, you can check out the link below. That will take you to our website, where you can see how we have helped over 2,700 ambitious women transform their bodies, plus a bunch of different testimonials. Note that we only take on a handful of new clients every month. So if you're curious, tap the link below to apply. All right, back to the show.
Yep.
So first off, you can't cycle sync your way into a toned body. Cycle syncing is a big thing out in the health and wellness space. There's not a whole lot of research to support it. Essentially, cycle syncing is you are changing your exercise, you're changing what you eat, you're kind of modifying your life and your tasks based on where you are in your cycle. We don't have to get deep in that. That could be a whole nother conversation. But essentially, even if you perfectly cycle sync your entire life around how your hormones are fluctuating throughout the course of a month, it's still not going to get you to a toned body. You can't seed cycle your way into a toned body either. Seed cycling is essentially you're eating different seeds, literally like think flax seeds. You're
Chia
eating,
seeds.
not chia seeds, but yeah.
Okay, not chia seeds.
You're eating different seeds that contain different nutrients throughout the course of a month. And those nutrients are meant to support whatever hormones need a little bit more support through whatever phase of your cycle that you're in, whether you're in your follicular phase or your luteal phase. Those nutrients are great, but also like so many people just aren't taking a basic multivitamin, or so many people aren't getting enough nutrients from their diet. So no, you don't need to cycle sync to balance your hormones per se. And again, it's still not going to lead you to a fit and toned body.
And in the same way, you can't out-supplement inconsistent nutrition from that perspective,
Or
right?
training.
So, or even training. And supplements have their merit, right? It's just that, to supplement the good foundation you should already have in place, which kind of, we were touching on that when we started out this podcast, but more so, if you have lower markers, right? And just, taking a support supplement for your estrogen, your progesterone, your testosterone, your cortisol to help level things out, like that's not going to be your saving grace in moving the needle for you, right? It can help kind of uplift some of those markers, right? But uplifting a marker doesn't mean that it's going to dramatically change your body composition. Tack on 10 pounds of muscle.
Yeah.
Like all these things that most people want to do when they're embarking in improving their health, right?
Yeah.
I would say most people want to get into, feeling better, but also like improving the way that they look at the same time.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say supplements are like the 5%.
Yeah.
Like you've got your foundations, and then once you've nailed your activity, your exercise, your nutrition, your sleep, your stress management, your hydration, then supplements can kind of give you that 5% boost, maybe in your energy, maybe in your sleep, maybe in your nervous system, but it definitely is not the 20, 30, 40%.
Yeah. And with that, I feel like the fitness industry, I feel like it was the way in the past before we kind of got into that, a couple of years ago era where it was like, it was the diet, right? Oh, keto's the thing. Intermittent fasting is going to snatch you up. And then hormones started to kind of have their tailwind. And then it was like, you got meno belly, you got cortisol face. Yeah. Cause you're estrogen dominant.
You're
right?
insulin resistant.
You're insulin resistant. That's why you have this tire around your waist, right? Like all these things. And it's like, if you just fix that, right? Oh, you're going to have all this weight flush off your body. Somehow these fat cells are going to start shrinking and you're going to be perfect.
Yeah. But it's like, how do you fix those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like your hormones are messengers. They're responding to your inputs. It's not like they're just magically dysregulated.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a tire around your waist from insulin, well, how do you fix that? You fix that through your diet. You fix that through lifestyle and nutrition interventions.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's like there's not this magic thing of like fixing that. So the other thing that's really interesting is that some of our clients who get the most insane results do not have perfect hormones. In fact, a lot of them, they were likely, or not likely, we've seen their panels before when they've done the initial test with us. Their hormones were dysregulated, but they still got fantastic results. And one of the reasons for that, I believe, is because they didn't let that be the thing that they pointed to when results weren't happening super quickly. Or, instead of saying, oh man, I didn't lose weight this week, or I haven't been seeing great progress, it's my hormones. Mm-hmm. No, they actually took ownership and they're like, well, I could be more consistent. I actually haven't been as accurate on the weekends, and they're actually really, I don't want to say pointing the blame, but they're really just being honest with themselves about their consistency versus just saying, oh, it's my hormones. Yeah. And that's why they're getting the best results. It's not because they started out and we looked at their labs and we're like, wow, these are pristine. And then they saw the best results. That was not the case.
Right.
So where do hormones actually play a role in your ability to lose fat and build muscle? To put it in the most simple way possible, right? It all comes back to energy balance. And so you have the calories coming in and then you have the calories going out. That is what hormones impact. It's either side of the equation, right? And so if you have more calories or more energy coming in than you do going out, that is what puts you in a position to gain weight. If you have more going out, meaning you're burning more calories than what is coming in, than the calories you're intaking, you will lose weight, right? So where hormones play a role is either sometimes it can cause higher cravings, it can cause your appetite maybe to be higher or sometimes lower. And so it also can cause, mood imbalances, right? Maybe your dopamine is dysregulated. You might search for food or emotional eating. So it can impact the calories coming in, mainly if you are not tracking your calories. And it almost is like, it feels like it's a mystery. It's like, oh, I'm gaining all this weight, but I don't know why. Well, maybe without even realizing it, you've actually been snacking or you've been gravitating more towards calorie dense foods, the really sugary and high fat foods, right?
Yeah.
So that's how it can impact calories coming in. Then it can impact the calories going out because it impacts your motivation.
Yep.
Maybe you're less consistent with working out. It can impact your energy levels. If you're more fatigued,
Yep.
you're going to move your body less, both consciously, like you might not be getting up and going for more walks because you're just like, oh, I'm so tired.
Right.
Or you're not fidgeting as much as Mason fidgets with his bobbing his knee or all the other ways in which you fidget. So it can impact that. It can impact your sleep. Your sleep has an impact on your appetite, your cravings, your ability to recover. So essentially it's impacting the system as a whole and impacting your daily actions.
Right.
I can speak on this from experience. When I was eating very little amount of calories and doing tons of cardio, I was so exhausted. Like you were around during that time.
Yeah. Yeah. Even from my perspective, like going through similar fitness journeys as you were, right? Competing and coming out of competing, being in the thick of it, like even as a man, like you feel that a ton as well too, even though less hormones, not as much fluctuation throughout the month, but you still feel that down regulation and sleep takes a hit, energy levels tank, motivation and drive, really starts to tank along with that. And you're more reliant on just like needing a bump throughout the day with caffeine just to like even be in the mind space to where, okay, I'll go to do my workout that I should be doing today, or I should go up and do my walk, right? Because of like the lower energy and the lack of like calories coming in too, like your body's a little bit cooler. So there's just all kinds of things that can
the cooler thing is
arise.
interesting too. If you're like really cold all the time, it's like your body's trying to conserve energy. It's not producing as much heat.
Yep.
So that's another way in which you burn less calories. The output is less on the other side of the equation. But I remember something as simple as I knew I needed to flip the laundry. And I was living in a 1,200 square foot apartment. It was right there. It's not like I even had to walk to another side of the house. And I remember just the idea of having to get up and flip the laundry was like just so hard.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would pass out on the couch before I ever got to the laundry. And you go the next day and you're like, damn, I don't have any workout clothes because they're soaking wet and they smell like mildew. But that is like a prime example of an extreme side of things. And then, going through the adrenal fatigue that I went through, where essentially cortisol was so high for so long, my body was like, I'm out. And, cortisol just kind of plummeted and it was very low, which cortisol gives you energy. It's a good thing. You want cortisol.
Yep.
And so when that happened in 2022, it really, really impacted me. I felt depressed. I would sleep for 9 or 10 hours and still felt like I slept for 3. I could fall asleep at any point. And I just did not feel like myself. I felt inflamed all the time. Because my thyroid and my cortisol were impacted, that also can impact your digestion. I was constipated. I was going like every 3 to 4 days. So there was all of these ways that my body was just kind of suffering, and my mindset, my mental health and emotional health were suffering. And the way that I would explain it was almost like you have a different set of lens on that you're viewing life through. Something that would traditionally feel so exciting, like when We would have a boat day with friends in Chicago. You know, that's so fun. That's so exciting, like something to be so grateful about. I was like, I don't even want to go. And I don't know if you remember this, but I was just crying. I'm like, I don't even think I'm going to go on the boat. It's like, what in the world, Audrey? What is going on? I just usually would be so excited, like, yeah, let's go. And I just had never felt so disconnected from my body and from myself, and didn't feel motivated to work and grow our business. And everything just felt like an uphill battle, no matter how small the task was. Yeah. So that's why this conversation matters so much. You know, another thing that is really telling is the suicide rate in women before their period goes up drastically. And if you are a woman and you're watching this, and one way to just think about it is, if you've ever had a really harsh luteal phase, like right before your period, and you're like, man, I feel like shit, I don't want to do anything. You're doubting yourself. You're so insecure. You're picking yourself apart. Imagine that, but like 24/7, 365, essentially. That's kind of what it felt like. And that's how you can experience the impact of hormones. So again, that's why this conversation is so important. But hormones don't override the law of thermodynamics. It's only impacting that equation of thermodynamics. It's not like cortisol just makes you pack on all these new fat cells. That's not how it works. They just simply influence the environment in which that happens. So let's kind of walk through like a real world scenario of a woman who her hormones are in a pretty decent spot, and then a woman who her hormones are just all over the place. They're not where they should be. Let's start with not where they should be.
Yep.
And actually, you could probably just go through that, and then you can imagine the opposite. So you were tossing and turning all night. You wake up, you feel groggy, kind of brain foggy.
A lot of brain fog.
A lot of brain fog. You're also puffy. Like maybe your face is looking a little bit puffy. Maybe your clothes are feeling a little bit tighter. And you're dreading the day. You're like, oh my gosh. Feels like I'm walking through quicksand. Then you don't really feel like putting the effort into your appearance because you already feel like crap.
Yep.
So getting dressed is like, ugh, I don't even want to look cute today.
Yep.
I don't feel like doing my hair, putting on makeup. So you kind of put in the least amount of effort. Then you go and you make your cup of coffee as quickly as you can because you need that boost of energy. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to function throughout the day. And then, you know, maybe your appetite's a little dysregulated, so you're not even hungry through the morning because your cortisol is blunting your appetite.
Yep.
So then you kind of forget to eat. You get caught up in the middle of the day, still dragging ass. So you have a second cup of coffee. That gets you through. And then it's the afternoon. Okay, you should probably eat. I'm really craving something a little heavy, something a little greasy.
Yep.
So you order in. You don't make the best choice when it comes to your lunch. And because you're just so exhausted, you're also not moving your body much. You're not taking the conscious effort to get up and go for a walk. And by the way, you still haven't gone to the bathroom yet today, so you're feeling kind of bloated.
Yep.
Then, you know, you get through the rest of the day as best as you can. You said that you were going to go to the gym. Maybe you even brought workout clothes. But by that time, you wrap up with work. You're like, there's no way in hell. I'm just way too exhausted. So you don't do that. And you go home and traffic pisses you off because you're just in a mood. You're just not happy, you know? And then you feel bad about yourself because you're like, I really should have worked out and I really should have moved my body. And you know what? I could have made a better choice at lunch. But whatever, the day's already a waste. You know, I'll start again tomorrow. Then you don't make the best choice when it comes to dinner either. After dinner, you're feeling snacky. Now your dopamine's so depleted, you just start scrolling on your phone.
Yep.
All night. You're just scrolling.
Yep.
That keeps you up. And then you start tossing and turning again, and you do it all over again.
The cycle repeats.
Cycle repeats.
Yep.
That is what it can look like when your hormones are all over the place. And again, the problem is because you feel like crap and it's influencing your actions are then influencing what your hormones look like. So it's this really vicious cycle. Now you can imagine what the opposite is, right? Waking up feeling vitality, waking up feeling a little bit of a boost of motivation or excitement for the day.
The zest for life, as some call it.
Yeah, the zest for life, exactly. So that's the difference, right? And you can imagine when you're feeling really good, when you're feeling energized, when you're, you know, feeling like your strength is pretty good in the gym and you're recovering pretty well. like your ability to stay consistent is just that much stronger. So that is why these things matter and why we still need to look at the system as a whole. We just don't want to just point the blame at hormones and expect that it's going to be an easy fix, because it's not an easy fix.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's impacting everything from sleep, from managing your stress, to the decisions that you're making with food. Now, there's an interesting overlap when we talk about, okay, let's say you have two goals. This is a lot of clients, when we ask them in the onboarding form, it's like, what's your main priorities right now? Is it typically the three things that we ask? Is it physique related? Your main priority is losing fat, building muscle, looking better, improving your body composition? Is it hormone and gut health related, internal health? Or is it athletic performance? Most of our clients, it'll interchange between physique or internal health. But the interesting thing is, if you work on the things that you need to work on for your hormones, your body composition will start to improve, not necessarily just because your hormones are improving, but because of the things that you're doing to improve your hormones will also improve your body composition. There's overlap.
100%. And those are kind of the biggest pieces, and we'll talk on some of those aspects of what that overlap looks like. So probably one of the biggest things, and I think Audrey started to experience this going through her hormone journey, and this was like kind of back in our like early entrepreneur days. Like this was like kind of the grind, the hustle, sleep 5 hours a night, 6 hours a night, and just like get up and just work. And sleep being one of the biggest drivers in being able to actually allow your body to recover. It is like literally, pun intended, the most slept on thing that you can be doing to feel better, to improve your hormones, to recover more from your training sessions. Just everything happens while you're sleeping. So making sure you're getting enough as a woman, I would say just experiencing it from Audrey, like 8 hours should be your minimum.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
8 hours as a female, like if you can get close to 9, hell, get in there, Sleeping
People
Beauty,
say
get
10, which is crazy.
Which is
I don't know if I've ever
I don't know
slept
if
10
some people can realistically sleep 10 hours a night, but like 8 should be you should be fighting for your 8 hours and be so protective of getting enough sleep. So sleep is like, it's the first on our list here, and we'll always come back to it. You probably heard us say sleep at some point if you've been listening to the podcast, but just such an important aspect when it comes to your hormone health.
Yeah.
Making sure you're sleeping enough, because if you're not, like you could be doing all the right things outside of sleeping, and if your hormones are just not in a good position, your body's like just not feeling 100%, and you're just not giving yourself enough sleep, you're fighting an uphill battle with yourself.
Yeah. What's interesting too is it's not always just about how much sleep you're getting, but the window in which you're sleeping. So I do find usually that the earlier I go to bed, the more I feel like I get deep quality sleep. But our house manager, she's the sweetest little thing. But yesterday I was like, today's a day where I feel like I just could use a second cup of coffee. And she goes, you only have 2 cups of coffee? And I was like, I usually only have 1. And she gasped, like jaw on the floor. And she's like, wow, she'll have a cup of coffee. And she's like, at some point I was having 3 Celsiuses a day, which is 600 milligrams of caffeine. Yeah. And she wakes up at like 3:45 in the morning because her, I think, boyfriend wakes up super early for his work. So she's like, I might as well just get up. But I found that to be the case too. Even if I got like 7.5 hours of sleep, which is a decent amount, because I was waking up at like 5 a.m., sometimes even a little bit earlier at certain seasons, I would have my cup of coffee at probably like 5:30, right? And then by the time like 9, 10 a.m. rolled around, I was so exhausted. It's like I was getting the afternoon slump, but still in the morning. So it's almost like in order to function and still get through the rest of the day, I felt like I needed more caffeine. So it's also about the windows in which you're sleeping. Now I find for me between 6 and like 7:30 a.m. is when I naturally wake up is when I feel my best, and I can easily get through the day with just 1 cup of coffee, which is crazy because, guys, I'm like I really try not to, but I could easily drink 4 cups of coffee a day. Like I'm a caffeine addict, but I just don't act on that.
Yeah.
So sleep is definitely important, and also understanding your body and what sleep window you feel best and most energized at.
Mm-hmm. And then probably our next one right underneath that, before we get into just a lot more of the fundamentals, is doing the best that you can to manage your stress throughout the day. A super big one, along with sleep. If you're just like constantly like on the fringe of just like pent up all the time, right? Really paying attention to your body and feeling, am I feeling kind of like in that fight or flight throughout most of the day? Do I work a really high stress job? Do I have a lot of like things going on and commitments on a weekly basis on top of just my high stress job and these other things? Am I giving myself some like time and space to maybe have a little bit more of a slower morning, right? Being able to, take some time in the afternoon to come maybe disconnect for 30 minutes, go for a walk, walk the dog, get out of the office, get some sunlight, touch some freaking grass, dude.
Yeah.
Like, are you doing these little things for yourself throughout the day? Stress is kind of just a big thing. Like, what are you doing for yourself just to like be present?
Yeah.
And detach from the things that we all get caught up in as humans, working demanding careers and demanding family lives and crazy shit that we're all hit with on a weekly basis, right? So doing the best you can to manage that stress, because if you're only just living in that stress all the time, it's just not a good environment for your body to feel good.
Yeah, to thrive in. It's not a good ecosystem. I would say 80% of the issues that arise with our clients when it comes to hormones is it goes back to their nervous system, which is chronic stress exposure essentially. And this can be a little bit complex because it's not always just what the eye can see. In fact, a lot of times the bigger stressors are what we can't necessarily see and not something that is easy to identify. So it can definitely be hard for us as coaches. So the one thing that we will focus on with clients is like, okay, let's look at the low-hanging fruit that is more easily to adjust or easy to be adjusted. So for a lot of our clients that they're so high achieving, they place a lot of pressure on themselves to be perfect. And so what we'll look at is, how often are you training? Your training frequency. If you're in the gym 6 days a week, let's pull that back. Let's pull it back to 4. If you're open to it, sometimes even 3. When I was needing to improve my hormones, I actually went back to 2 days a week. And my typical effort of, let's say I'm giving it 100%, I then intentionally went down to like 50% effort. So it was kind of like going through the motions, and as much as it sucked, it was one of the levers that really helped. So that's one of the things that we can address.
Yeah.
Also, hand in hand with that is cardio. Are you not even just cardio of like doing intense HIIT training or, on the stairs, but how much steps are you getting? This is actually a little sneaky one because everyone talks about how great steps are, but if you're under eating, you're training 6 days a week and your step goal is 15 to 20,000 a day, homegirl, you need a rest. Like, your body is screaming for you to just chill out a little bit. And so when I actually pulled back my steps from a goal of like 15,000 every day to like 8,000, oh my gosh, my energy levels were night and day. And also my appetite was way more regulated.
Yeah.
So that can be some of the low hanging fruit, but then you have the underlying ones that are not so obvious. And this can be childhood trauma. This can be trauma in general that you've gone through. If you've gone through a hard loss in your life, this could be relationship stress. Maybe you've been thinking about a hard conversation that you need to have with your boss. Maybe it is work related, right? It's kind of a more, I don't want to say a low hanging fruit because you can't always just leave your job, but that could be one. Maybe it is, your coping abilities. Are you somebody who holds on to a lot of anger? Do you hold on to things, or are you able to kind of release them? It could also be stress that your body is experiencing from toxins in your environment. If you're living in a mold-infested house, that is stress on your body. If you have a ton of microplastics, like all of that stuff adds up too. All of the stuff in your skincare, all of the stuff in your non-stick pans that you're using, like, this is the nitty-gritty stuff, but it compounds.
It does.
And it does have a downstream impact on your hormones. So there's also that kind of stress. But I would say all of that is just such a burden to your system. And then there's going to be a domino impact on all of your hormone markers.
Yep. And then a couple more simple ones as we're going down our list here. Really basic, right? We should know this. These are going to be fundamental things you guys have likely heard before, but just more whole foods, throughout the day. Following a good 80-20 rule is what we always like to preach, and making sure you're getting in vegetables, fruits, you're eating colors, right? You're not eating that super processed stuff. You're having lean meats, complex carbs, just getting good quality foods into your system, right? We are what we eat. We've all heard that term before, and it's true, right? If you want to feel really good, you want to put the good things in your body to supplement that.
Yeah, not only like you are what you eat, but you're actually what you absorb too. So this could be a whole separate podcast, and we talked about it actually on our podcast with Dr. Sierra Baines. But your gut health actually plays a big role in your hormones as well. And so a lot of clients, it's as simple as they're not having enough fiber. Because they're not having enough fiber, they're constipated. Because they're constipated, they're recirculating estrogen and they're not excreting some of that estrogen through their stool. And because of that, they're estrogen dominant. So yeah, there's, again, the system, it's a system that works together. So whole foods, they're important because your hormones require certain nutrients to really be able to thrive. And where do you get those nutrients? Well, you get them through your food. Yeah. And then obviously, again, supplements can kind of help to fill in some of the gaps that you might not be getting. Even with a perfect diet, most of us aren't getting enough omega-3s and some of the other nutrients that you might get through supplementation.
Yep.
Also a balanced diet, right? So we were talking about insulin earlier. If your breakfast is just, even though it's healthy, if it's just a bowl of oatmeal, or if your breakfast is just like a bagel, you're just getting carbs and you're not having anything to kind of blunt the impact of the glucose spike that happens. So having fiber, having protein, having some healthy fats can help to kind of balance out your blood sugar a little bit. So little details, but it can go a long way. As we just talked about, eating enough.
Yep.
This is a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a big one. And I think it's often overlooked one, right? So food is fuel, right? And calories, if you're consistently eating extremely low calorie, there's going to be seasons where if you're going through fat loss, you do need to eat less. But you don't want to do that forever because your body is essentially like, okay, this is kind of viewed as a threat at this point. So your thyroid downregulates. Sometimes it can have an impact on your cortisol, on your sex hormones. So just having intentional periods of eating at maintenance. So like if you're, in a calorie deficit, at some point you need to come out of that and you need to return back to like a good, healthy baseline, which is different for everybody.
Yep. Exercising regularly, strength training. So just getting in there, lifting weights, trying to get stronger, very important aspects of the process that you want to be really committed to as well. Reducing excessive cardio and overtraining. So I think we mentioned this too earlier where, if your body's really showing a lot of these signs and giving you negative feedback, we don't want to be in there for an hour and a half, 6 days a week, cranking it like circuits and like really being aggressive, because that can be more counterproductive from a stress standpoint. That won't allow your body to really rejuvenate and get back to where you want it to be. So that's another big aspect.
And we'll add to that too, if you are training like an athlete, right? Like athletes are training all the time and there's high output, but what are they doing? They're eating more.
Yep.
They're eating a quality, balanced diet with a lot of nutrients. They're sleeping. They're prioritizing their sleep. So if you're going to train like an athlete trains, you need to also act like an athlete does outside of their training.
Yep.
So you can have high output, but you also need high input from a food perspective, and you need to treat your recovery just as seriously as you treat your training. And that's usually the missing link there. And then alcohol is obviously a toxin to our body. And so minimizing alcohol as much as possible is going to be helpful. Like everybody knows that. We don't need to go into the science and the research behind that. Hydration. Yep. It's simple, but it's important. A lot of times, like when you're feeling pretty inflamed and puffy, it's because you're dehydrated. Yep. And so your body will actually hold on to water if you're not consuming enough water, or if your electrolytes are off, you're going to feel a little bit more puffy. You're going to feel less energized, and your hormones do need the proper electrolyte balance and hydration to function and thrive.
Yep. Morning sunlight, getting out there, getting some vitamin D, right?
Yeah.
Letting that sun hit your skin. If you're in a place that has a good amount of sunlight, not everybody lives in Arizona like we do, where it's sunny 390 days out of the 365 days out of the year, but just doing
390.
yeah, it feels like it. But yeah, just getting some sunlight if you can, and just really, getting some vitamin D.
Yeah, and if you do live in a place that isn't super sunny, if you're working indoors a lot, then supplementing with vitamin D can actually be one that is so helpful. A lot of men that have lower testosterone and have insufficient vitamin D levels, it's like one of the lowest hanging fruits. It's like just supplement with vitamin D and you can get a little boost in your testosterone levels.
Literally.
The thing that's really important that we will come back to is that this isn't necessarily like just a hormone balancing protocol. Like, yes, if you do all of these things consistently, you will notice a massive difference in your sleep. And if you're thinking, I know all these things, I know sleep's important, I know that I shouldn't be drinking much alcohol, I know that I need to eat more whole foods, but yeah, are you doing it?
Yep.
That's the biggest thing.
Exactly.
Like, you need to be sometimes reminded over and over and over again, more than you just need to be told that one time. So you really need to like get serious about it. Like, are you serious enough about actually wanting to change and feel better? And if so, then stick to these things, because I promise it will make the biggest difference and you'll start to feel like a whole new person. Because it's like, there is no secret hormone balancing protocol. There just isn't. You have to do these fundamentals consistently for months on end. So a moment of reflection, like, if you get really, really honest with yourself, have you been pointing the blame at hormones but not doing anything about it? Has that just become an excuse to not take a different set of actions?
Yep.
And it's not this isn't a question to ask yourself to shame yourself or to make yourself feel bad about yourself. No. This is just a question to say, okay, if I really want to see a change, am I willing to do the work that is necessary, the boring, fundamental work that we just talked about here?
Because oftentimes the results that you seek is found in the work that you're avoiding, right? We all know we can probably, like, no one's going to be able to like look and maybe know that you are not doing the right things, but like in your heart, like, right? Am I leaving results on the table because I haven't fully committed to the things that I know that I should be doing? Or did I kind of give them a chance and not fully commit to them? Did I not stay fully consistent? And then did I chalk that up as like, that doesn't work for me, or like my body's different, right? So lots of different narratives that can be going on there, but you ultimately know, did you give it your full effort? Were you actually being consistent with all the things that we listed out? Were you actually tracking your food in the way that you should have? Or were you just guessing it and eyeballing and just like, kind of tracking and loosely doing things, right? So were you actually dialed in, or were you just kind of there?
Yeah.
Right? And you'll know, right? No one's going to accuse you of that or be like this, that, and the other, but like, truly, if you were really dialed in, you were actually consistent, you were actually doing the actions required for the amount of time required. And oftentimes, it's going to take a little bit longer than you probably anticipate for you to move that needle along. But if you dial it in, it'll be fine.
Yeah. I want to close out with something that we probably should have started with, which is there are certainly instances where you need to go the extra mile when it comes to improving your hormones. PMOS, formerly known as PCOS, if you do have an autoimmune condition, if you do have a genetic predisposition to certain hormone imbalance, hyperthyroidism, whatever it might be, there's a whole host of things. We're not saying that like, just do the basics, right? Because sometimes there does need to be more that is involved. Again, we probably should have started with that, but we don't want to like discredit the fact that there are certainly times where there needs to be additional measures taken, even beyond maybe what we have mentioned here. And that's valid.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate you watching the channel. We love seeing your guys' comments, just saying that you're really enjoying these episodes. We're enjoying filming them. So yeah, we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Peace.